Right, people who like Yakuza games tend to look forward to all the dumb stuff more than they look forward to the not dumb stuff. Would that be fair to say, James?
I think the dumbest thing overall in Yakuza is that this new game, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, is kind of simultaneously like the first, second, 9th, 20th, and 23rd game in the series all at once. Because it's a sequel to the turn-based reboot, Yakuza Like a Dragon. But this is the first one that's called Like a Dragon, except the one that before this was a spin-off that was called Like a Dragon Gaiden, but that's a different thing.
That wasn't turn-based.
No, that wasn't turn-based. That spin-off was beat-em-up style. That was with Kiryu, the original protagonist.
The man who erased his name was like a sort of ending point for the Yakuza story, but of course it's not the end point because it's...
No, he's in this one as well. He's the dual protagonist in this one too. It's not even like he's a supporting character. He is the alternate main character. Before we even get into the list, the main thing to think about is that if you're wondering whether you can just jump into this game, you've never played a Yakuza game before, or if you have, you played a couple, it all doesn't matter. Like I say, it's the second part of this rebooted thing, but there is a main headline change, and that is that Ichiban Kasuga, the main protagonist from Like a Dragon, is now taking his part of the story to Honolulu City in Hawaii. So this is like a big departure, this big difference from all of the other ones before. So even though it's the same kind of mix of hard-boiled melodrama and just off-the-wall silliness, it's a great jumping on point. So the first thing you need to look forward to in Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is just the glittering array of absolute stupidity, which is the job system. One of the big points of the first Like a Dragon was that the protagonist Ichiban Kasuga has a vivid imagination and a love of classic JRPGs, and you can apply yourself to an array of just silly jobs, and Infinite Wealth takes that even further. You can be a scuba diver, a fire dancer, a cowboy, a samurai. So some of those are really Japanese themed, like samurai. Some of them, like you say, are taking it to America, they're cowboys, or they're taking it to Hawaii specifically with the fire dancer. The unlock scenes that you get for all of these different jobs are just hilarious, they're great. They're some of the real highlights of the game, and it has that perfect Yakuza flavor that doesn't take itself too seriously. It's just Yakuza in a nutshell.
Right, you need to explain point number 2 because you've written an Elmo mascot with huge gritty energy. So, you don't mean gritty like hard boiled or...
No, I don't mean gritty. I mean gritty like the Philadelphia Flyers mascot, Gritty. Gritty declares all bodies are beach bodies, no diets, only riots. It's the law. It's the law. He's amazing. I love a bit of gritty. And one of the big mini games that you get within Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is this thing called Dondoko Island, where it's essentially an Animal Crossing parody where you have your own tropical island and you clean it up, you clean up the trash and you nurse it back to health. And one of the best things about it is that there's this giant Elmo looking dude called Muku who just has he just cracks me up every time he comes on screen. He's great. He's just this gunless big mascot dude, and again, it's just Yakuza in a nutshell. It's super silly, but has that grain of engaging gameplay that makes it worthwhile and not just a joke. It's the kind of thing that starts off ironically and then through just brute force of will becomes completely unironic. This is even more hilarious given the history between Sega and Nintendo, feuding for all of those years. This Yakuza is probably now Sega's best loved franchise, right? So they've got Sonic, obviously, but...
Is Sonic loved as much as it's tolerated?
Exactly. So as the tentpole franchise for Sega these days, it makes it even funnier that in these Like a Dragon games, there are so many Nintendo parodies, and it's not just Animal Crossing. In the first Like a Dragon, there was the Sujimon Dex, where all of the enemy types that you fought in the RPG battles were kind of given their own Pokedex number, and you had to find them all and collect them all and that sort of stuff. In Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, that's been expanded on to the point where there are now full Pokemon-style battles that you collect them and you battle them with each other. It just shows you how RGG Studio have not rested on the laurels with such a big series, that they're still trying to push it further. They're trying to make it bigger.
Do you think RGG Studio have a reverence for Nintendo, or do you think they're taking the piss?
It is done with just a love for classic games. Like I said, in Yakuza Like a Dragon, it establishes that Kasuga has this love of games himself. He's a massive Dragon Quest fan, I think, specifically. Another big thing of the Yakuza series is it always has arcade games that you can go and play, the classic Sega games. I think the parody element of it is done with love because it is a celebration of games more so than just taking the mick. Segues obviously rule. I may or may not have fallen over one in a field once. It really hurt, but given their danger, that makes them exciting as well as cool. Building on all of the things saying about how it's much better to play quality of life wise, Honolulu City is the biggest environment that RGG Studio has ever built for a Yakuza game or like a Dragon game. It's just the biggest by far. And one of the ways that they've made it smoother, more easy to explore, is by giving you a vehicle. And what fits better with the slightly off the wall, slightly madcap kind of character that they've created is the Segway, the greatest vehicle on planet Earth. It's introduced with a really funny quest, but like everything else, it has a core of mechanical brilliance that makes it compelling rather than just stupid. That it makes it much better to scoot around. And there are so many random battles that you have to take on in the Like a Dragon games because they're turn-based that I really, really hate when particularly turn-based games get bogged down in these like glacial systems that are just really treacle to move through. You have to battle something, the mobs are too weak, and so you just have to press 3 times to beat them, and then you won, has to play the battle music, has to do the XP thing, it goes on and on and on. But Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth has done so much with that you can just smash like trash mobs with one button now if you get caught in a thing, or you can just run around them in your Segway. It makes it a lot easier, it makes it a lot less of a grind to play, and that's one of the best things about it. I
love the prospect of cutting about the Yakuza world like your Will Arnett in Arrested Development.
Exactly.
I feel like it kind of has that energy, right?
It definitely does. It definitely does. And one of my favorite characters in what I played it that I met was the Segway instructor. He's
it's not actually Will Arnett, is it?
No, it's not actually Will Arnett, but he's covered in cuts and bruises, so he's just got plasters all over his body, and he's just this pathetic wimp who like you need to play yourself. I don't want to spoil it too much. It's good stuff.
James, when you first sent me this list, I got to point 5 and thought, I mean, the rest of them are kind of dumb, fun, Yakuza-y type stuff, the sort of stuff I was expecting. And then point number 5 was like a bit of tonal whiplash.
I've got cancer.
Can you please explain to me why Kiryu having cancer is a dumb thing to look forward to? Because it sounds like a harrowing thing to not look forward to.
Well, you say that, but one of the, I think, underrated aspects of the Yakuza series as a whole is tonal whiplash could be a subtitle of pretty much every one of them going, because
that's true.
It's, as well as the karaoke, as well as the host clubs, as well as all of this stuff, one of the best things that the Yakuza series is that it gives it dispels so many stereotypes by giving this really grounded, gritty look at the marginalized aspects of Japanese society at the same time as all of these silly things.
Really true.
And
yeah,
I think it's one of the only game series where you could have all of these super silly elements, but then also have it grounded within a story that deals with pretty much the worst thing that can happen to anybody. And at the same time, I'm keep going back to this, it has this mechanical element, it has this story part, it has this hook that grounds it within the actual objectives of what the game's trying to do. And because of this big key story element, which personally I would have saved for players in the game, I don't know why they're talking about this before pre-release, but whatever. Yeah. It's in all of the trailers, it's in all of the pre-release material, so whatever, we'll talk about it. I think because you're dealing with such an unwieldy series, like we've spoken about, it's simultaneously the 1st, 2nd, 9th, 20th and 23rd game within this series that started in 2005. Because Kiryu's feeling nostalgic because of the plight that he finds himself in, his collectibles around the Yokohama section of the game, his dual protagonist part takes part in Japan still. Because of his illness, he has to go back to Japan for treatment,
course,
right?
Yeah.
And his collectibles around the map are key moments and memories from old Yakuza games, which is either a really good history lesson if you've never played any of these games, or you've played some of them, which is the boat that I'm in. I've probably played 5 or 6 rather than 23. So it's like, oh yeah, I've seen that in the cutscenes at the start of Yakuza 5 or whatever. I've seen that I've seen these different parts throughout the time, and it's a really good hook to remember this stuff by, or learn about this stuff by with a new eye. Or if you have played exhaustively all of that stuff, it's really great fan service, because whether you like it or not, from between 2005 and 2024, you have grown up with that character, and you've experienced this stuff at the same time as them, and it's a really nice and really well framed and really well executed look at the history of the series, and a really nice. You say that the man who erased his name was a coda to Kiryu's story, even though it's still continuing now. This is that even more so. It's a really nice, it's really nice framing that they've got, and it's a really great addition as well.
Yakuza, say Yakuza.
Don't do that, stop.